Hello everyone, welcome to stream! Oh my god, welcome in everyone! Voice, yeah. Hello. Welcome in everyone, how am I? I'm doing okay. I'm not doing too bad. Oh, tired vibes. This is just how every stream goes. It's just always tired vibes. Hello everyone, welcome to stream. How we all doing, Eepy? Yeah, I'm Sweepy. How we all doing? How's the vibe? How are we doing today? Hope we're all doing good. Like the stream title says, what we are going to be doing today is we are going to be... Yes, I do these doodles while you guys are talking in the 10 minutes. What we are going to be doing today is we are going to be talking about texture. Just getting over a flu. Oof. Sick on the day of my first school dance. Oh no. If it makes you feel any better, the only time that, like, the thing that school dances are the best for, or, like, when I was younger, was skipping class. But yeah, no, we're all good here. Like the stream title says, we are going to... You should move for us because we're moving, yeah. What we are going to be doing today is we are going to be talking about texture. We're going to be talking about how to render out texture. Not necessarily with digital painting, because that's how you see a lot of texture tutorials go. But just because some people are cell shaders. I'm a cell shader. So texture's a little bit harder to achieve with that style. So we're going to be going over some techniques for how to do that. Based on the poll for this week wanted me to do foliage. So I'm gonna be talking about foliage. Yeah, do your uni work. Me, who's also avoiding my uni work. And do your uni work. Cell shading is awesome. It's my favorite. It's my shading of choice. Wow, it took a while for me to get that out of my system. But all right. Oh, I am on the. Hang on. I just realized I'm on the wrong. Shh. Give me a second, y'all. We all still working? We doing good here? Stream didn't die. Alright. We're all still good? How long have I been live today? 2 minutes. What's cell shading? I'll talk about it. It's bad I probably know what cell shading is, but I don't know it by name. That's how I am with most things. Apologies, I'm also very congested. So, don't mind me. But okay. Before we get started, those of you who are regulars know the drill, because if you didn't know, our growing community is filled with tons of art nerds, and we art nerds have to stick together, so if you're an art nerd too, be sure to check the links to our social media in the description below, and check out our website for our class offerings, where you can get critique, guidance, and encouragement from our instructors, because we're not just a YouTube channel, we are an art school too. So if you'd like to support us, we can keep making free content, consider supporting us by becoming a YouTube member for exclusive channel perks like emotes and sub badges, or supporting us on Patreon for as little as $2 per month, where you can get access to tons of perks like my working files, critique sessions, class recordings, and a huge discount on our classes that have a limited amount of spots. So be sure to check those out before they are gone. Alright. So before we get into the drawing portion, we have this week's submissions. We have the art submissions. Remember, you can join the Discord, submit your art onto the Discord, and you have a chance of being, featured in the beginning of stream. Actually, do I sound okay? Hang on, let me turn down the music a little bit. I think that's a little bit better. The submission this week, !Discord if you want to join the Discord. The submissions for this month, now that we have rolled over to November, this month's theme is weapon design. So submit all your weaponry, medieval or modern or futuristic. Any and all. Love me some good weaponry. This one is by Emmy. I'm a really big fan of black shading, just heavy black shading. I think it's really, really fun. Where it's just like the hue and then black. I would love to try and master that, because I don't think I have. I think I'm very subpar at it. So Emmy, you did a really, really good job. This is a really, really well illustrated thing. I love how simple it is. I'm always a big fan of I believe, if I remember correctly, you said that this was a character who happens to be be able to turn into a weapon. I love this illustration. I love how you've gotten the idea of shiny metal in there with just two values. Really, really well done. Alright. The next one is by M. So we had Emmy and then M. This one is of a ring that supposedly has the power to bring the ocean back. Oh my god, I just hit my desk. I'm so sorry. So it has the power to bring the ocean back from a world that has lost its water. And this is a beautiful render. I love the way that, like, this ring has this, like, almost watery, almost like cloudy jade-like texture. It feels both, like, smooth and like it's made of stone at the same time. Really, really great. Really great looking, and interesting original version of weaponry. Like, I think that weapons, when people think weapons, they think swords and guns and things. You can have a lot of things that can be weapons. You can get creative with it. I think this is a good example of that. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Love that. This next one is by Isaac in the Discord. We got some traditional art ones. I love this, like, coral bone fin axe kind of thing. I love axes. My D&D character, I play with a great axe that's made out of a moose's antler. And I love when you have something that's like, I love, like, taking that, like, shape language and turning it into something new. This is crazy. I love how fun and original this design is, like using a fin as a blade. I think it's really, really cool. I'm a really big fan of ballpoint pen rendering as well. It looks like just like a normal blue ballpoint. I think that's really, really cool. Well done, well done, well done. That goes hard. Hi, Crow. This one is by Jaden in the Discord. They submitted a couple of things. I like this bow and arrow more. Really cool design. I love that you have like the details of what this thing can do. It's approximately 3 feet. Frame made of flexible iron gold alloy. Thick glass compartment holds magic heart and a star. It's gold embedding for decoration, runes carved and painted in. I think that this is a really, really, really fun design. I'm always a big fan of like weird bow and arrows. I love bow and arrows that are just really strange, because I think that bow and arrows, they have such little surface area to work with, so if you can make that surface area into something interesting, big fan of that. But alright. And this one, I believe, is the last one, actually, I'm not sure, is by Cartooz. Cartooz? I'm sorry if I am mispronouncing that. My apologies. But this is a beautiful, like, it's fun. I think they called it like a mace gun. And I think that's really cool. It's like you can bonk somebody with it and you can shoot somebody with it. And it's my best friend, one of her D&D characters has a gun like this that her character named Kyle, and it's like it's a gun glaive. So on the one side it has it's like a sword, but you could still shoot with it. It's great. I love these, like, weird, like, combo weapons, and I think that that's really, really fun. Beautiful stuff. I think that's all. Yes, that is all. Thank you so, so much for everybody who submitted. Remember, if you didn't get into the beginning portion, that's totally fine. You can try again. And for those who didn't submit, please submit your work. I'd love to see more weaponry from everyone. I'd love to see some design work. Because design isn't just, you know, design isn't only characters, isn't only monsters. Everything has to be designed. So, feel free to submit your things. Alright. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. My nose is so, like, stuffy right now. I think I call it allergies for something. Oh well. So, I need to submit, !Discord. You'll be able to see the submission channel there. Gun glaive sounds so sick. It's like a bayonet type thing, or is the butt of the gun got a glaive head? I think it's like a bayonet. Close to that, anyway. What age did I start drawing? I started drawing the second that I came out of the womb. I was born with a pencil in hand. My mother saw me with a pencil merged to my fingertips, and I started drawing the instant that I could breathe air. I've been drawing since I was a child. I've been drawing my whole life. Alright, so I give that exact same answer because I've been asked that a bajillion times. So, what we are going to be doing is we're going to be starting off with, actually, let me write off the top textures. So rendering textures, we've got a few to go over. You guys can request once we have finished this first one, so you can request some textures from me as the stream goes on. But right now, we're going to be going over foliage. Foliage and plants in general. Because I see a lot of people... I'm going to go over a few ways that you can do this. So we're going to go over plants. So plants have a few ways, right? Every time that you see plants, I feel like plants are one that, like, you always see because they're like, oh, there's a really easy way to do this, or it's like something that everybody is like, oh, I hate rendering plants because it takes so long. It really doesn't have to. I'm gonna go over a few ways you can do it. So, when we start off, is a really easy way you can do it with your painting. Start with your darkest values first. I'm pretty sure I went over this in another stream, but if you start off with your darkest values first, let's say we just have the general silhouette of a bush. I'm gonna start with the bush. I'm gonna go over some grass too. I saw some people wanted grass. Let's say I got a general silhouette of a bush in here. These tips work on paper, not 100%. I'm going to be going over them with cell shading as well, so this is more for digital painting, but I will be going over a few ways. So if you start with your darkest dark, and then continue adding on lightness, but shift your color, right? If you go from, if you say you're in this green area only, if you start with your darkest, and then only use this green and just only get lighter with this green. Sure, it works, whatever, but it isn't as, like, lifelike. So say we started off with this green, that's closer to blue, and then we start to move closer to yellow as we get lighter. This feels more alive, right? This has more color to it. This feels a little bit colder, right? It's up to you. It depends on what, like, effect that you want. Generally, people do this. They hue shift. That's what it's called. They hue shift to make it feel warmer. So this is more cold. Hue shifted. So it looks a little bit nicer. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. So let's say that we start with this general shape. I hue shift a little bit, get closer to the yellow. And now I start to pick out more details. Of course, I'm still keeping them as general blobs. What does it look like if you hue shift to a colder color? So I'll talk about that in a second, actually. I wasn't planning on talking about lighting at all. But I will talk about that in a moment. Let me just get through this rendering portion. And then again, hue shift, get lighter in color. I'm going to make my brush smaller as well, because now what we want is to make our details just a little bit more noticeable. Right? Now we're focusing more on actually getting details in there rather than just full silhouettes. So we're going to pick out certain leaves, pick out certain areas that we want to highlight. Right, so it's not really one big blob anymore. Now we're starting to poke out leaves. We're starting to poke out things like that. And get even lighter. Make my brush a little bit smaller. And even your lightest color, and even less areas. Right? And that makes a nice kind of very warm rendered sort of work on the leaves. Yeah, yeah. So you can work on something like this. depending on how much lighting you want, you can change how much light hits the bushes, you can change how big the leaves are, you can change whatever you want, right? This is just like a general tip, right? It's a general kind of way that you can render it out. It looks like a pixel bush. It does. Very generally, though, digital painters won't render out a bush this much. They'll choose, like, maybe 1 or 2 greens. Like, let's say that we've got, like, kind of just a generalized sky back here. And, like, a generalized blue. And then maybe they'll have, like an opacity by pressure brush or something. And they'll just, like, get in the general shape there. And then maybe get, like, a little bit darker and bring that in, or a little bit lighter. And then that's it. Like, they won't really do too much with it. Because if you add too much detail, then you're already doing too much, so it tends to look fine just like that. If you want to make it lighter, you want to make it darker, whatever. Like, that's up to you. Right? That's the rendered version, right? This is more if you're going with painting. Another fun thing, if you really want to do, like, quick bushes, quick generalized bushes, what's nice, yeah, corner bushes, exactly. Nice generalized bushes is if you get this, like, general shape in there. What's nice is a textured brush as well. Never use a hard round if you're gonna do something like this, like something that's like that. Notice how, like, textured and kind of chalky my brush looks. It's nice to get that sort of look in there. And then maybe add some, like, oops. Some slightly generalized color in there. Layer it in, work it in with, like, opacity by pressure. And then maybe if you want to add some fun little leaves, just add a few on top. Like that. That's also another fun one. If you wanted to make it a little bit less, like this one is, like, especially if it's just in the background and you're not worrying too much about it, like, that's good enough too. Closer plant, more details, further less detailed. Yeah, no. That's the general rule of thumb for most art. If it's a background element, don't worry about it. Like, that's the biggest thing that a lot of beginner background artists will do, is that they try and render out every single aspect of the background. Don't do that. You're gonna make your piece way too busy. You're gonna, like, defocus the piece. You're gonna make everybody look at a specific point when they really shouldn't be, right? It's better if you focus less on this kind of thing. Another really good thing is, like, if you have, like, trees. If you've got, like, trees and there's, like, some kind of bush or something going off of it, if they've got, like, I wouldn't choose this brown for a tree, it'd be more like that, yeah. You say if we've got, like, the base of a tree, something like this, we've got little moss on it, moss growing on it. Again, I'd pick my green, it'd probably be something like this. And just very lightly drawn small little circles. A moss on top, let it blend. Like that. And then if I really wanted, I can add little leaves. Oops, that's too much like that. That's too saturated. I could add little, like, circular leaves that look like this on the edges too. My rule of thumb is generally to always lean your greens onto yellow by comparison to blue. The blue tends to look too cold and too unrealistic. How cactuses would be shaded, be more flatly shaded, more straight shapes, or roughly more curved shades. Depends on the cactus. If you have, like, what's it called? How cactus would be shaded? It depends on what the cactus is. Like, some cacti are, like, I think it's called a pear cacti. I think that's one of them. Pear cactus? Yeah, so, like, if you've got a pear cactus, that thing is, like, it's, like, flat, right? It's as if you're just painting in a bunch of, like, flat things. But if you have, like, fuzzier cacti, or if you have like strange thing. It depends. Your best bet is to look up references, because those references will do you the world of good. Render more as you get closer to the camera, like where the artwork is looking from, so it'll look more natural as our eyes can't pick up much detail from further away. Yes and no. Render where your focal distance is, right? If something is super, super close to you, it'll still be blurry, right? Take your hand, right, and focus on your hand, right? To put your hand in front of you right now. Like, if you're standing there right now, you should have a hand attached to you. So if you're looking at your hand, if you don't have a hand attached to you, I apologize. But, like, if you have your hand, look at it right now, and start to bring it closer and closer towards you. At a point, your eyes will stop being able to focus on that hand, and it'll start to focus more on the things around that hand. Because that hand is now blurry, and it becomes progressively more difficult to focus on it, right? And it's the same thing if you have, like, not great vision. The further that something gets from you, it automatically starts to get blurry because your eyes can't focus on that either. But you can still adjust your focal distance on your hand. Say if you have something else that's in front of you. Move your hand closer to you and farther away. Closer and farther away so that your hand is always in focus, right? Notice that the things that surround your hand, those things change. Those things change in how blurry they are and how sharp they are, depending on if your hand is next to them, farther away, or closer to it, right? Check it. Look at how that difference is. Look at how that render difference is, right? It's the same deal. That's how you think of it when it comes to backgrounds and things like that, right? I have done that a couple of times. Let's see here. So I really, really love short focal distance. I'm just gonna bring up this one again because it's... I'm gonna bring up this background again because it's the easiest one to talk about. Right? So things that are really, really close to you will still be blurred. Things that get farther away from you will also be blurred. You just have to figure out where that exact section of sharpness is with your eyes, right? If you have a very short focal length, it tends to make the entire piece look a lot more like camera-like, a little bit more like cinematic, that sort of thing, right? Things that are closer get really, really blurry. Things that are farther get really, really blurry. But there will be a single area of sharpness. And that single area of sharpness is what your eyes will focus on the most. That's a camera thing. So my hair actually cyan and red. It used to be. It used to be half red and yellow and then half blue and green. My hair now just has like the blonde front parts. Blurry bats look so cool. Thank you. I drew one bat and copied it 7 times and rotated it. But alright. So that's one way that you can think of it, right? This is a bunch of different blurry sort of foliage. Grass actually works the same way. If you've got like a field, right? Let's say we've got kind of a field of grass. As the grass gets closer to you, right, you might start to add slight more detail, slight more hue. Actually, what I usually like to do is, like, if I have grass, then, like, let's say if we have, like, a background like this. Whoops. I'm trying to think, what do I do? Because I don't draw grass much. Say that we've got a sky like this. Usually what I do is, like, I work with, what's it called? Aerial something. Aerial perspective? Aerial something. But I let it get farther away and more blue, because this is just what happens, right? It won't stay perfectly green the whole time. As it gets farther away, make it a little bit... This is very, very quick as well. I would not render this like this exactly. And then I wouldn't just automatically do this the whole time. I wouldn't use the grass texture for the entire section. I would use it in very sparse, very small areas. And make sure the grass is going in different directions. That sort of thing. Atmospheric perspective, yes, thank you. But yeah, I like to add atmospheric perspective into there. The grass blades, there should be more of them, despite them being smaller as you get farther into the distance. But yeah, try not to make it so it's like grass all the time. It's better to make it if you have grass sometimes. And this feels a little bit more natural. Right? A big mistake is already if you have like a grass brush. And then they just, I don't have a grass brush. I refuse to use a grass brush. But if you have like a, oh, actually. Nope. Alright, well, not here. But sometimes you'll have a grass brush and you'll see people just, like, rake the grass brush across the, like, across the area just completely. Don't do that. It doesn't look great. Let's see here. Let's write some notes so that, like, I can post this properly. Moss is right here. So if you do moss, it's nice if you... I'll do it again, just because I went over it very, very quickly. The darked. Here. How would I do fur? We have a fur stream. There was a whole stream dedicated to fur. Let me do... I hear mouse-like clicking. Yes, I'm on a computer. I would hope you could hear mouse-like clicking and not other kinds of clicking. If you hear other kinds of clicking, you may need to leave your home, for there may be a creature there. Alright. Could this work for more comic settings where the backgrounds are simplified? Yes and no. If I was doing... Here, let me... I've done foliage for my comics before. Let me pull that up. So... Foliage, when I would do a background... Like, I guess this isn't really that far into the background. I should have simplified it if it really was. But, like, when I would do backgrounds, I would just... Oh, let me find one with, like, trees. There we go. If I had trees, I would maybe do, like, 3 hues and blur it. Because then it's like, this is not what you're gonna be looking at, right? You're looking right here. That's who you're looking at, right? You've got a bunch of leading lines. The perspective goes directly towards gray, right? We've got trees here. We recognize these as autumn trees, right? But they are just... It's just blurred, right? You really shouldn't spend much time on it. Vines. I can go over vines in a second. I'm just gonna go over moss one more time. So if we let me use a rock. Let's say we've got a rock. I do okay with a pen. My mouse hand is only for gaming. Yeah, no. I'm working with a tablet right now, so it's technically not a mouse. I have a Logitech. I have a Logitech gaming mouse. The G703 Lightspeed. It is custom painted to be pink and blue. But I have a Cintiq. But alright. I mean, technically I have a companion hybrid, but either or. So if we have moss, right? You just kind of very gradually blur that into there. You notice that it's a very, very similar value right now, so I'm gonna start to bring it up. Moss always looks better if you lean it towards yellow as well. Don't lean it towards blue, because, you know, what 2 colors make up green, guys? It's yellow and blue. Right. Good job. So, If we lean our greens more to yellow, it makes the greens feel more natural, right? Usually blued out green feels a little bit more plastic, so moss that looks like this, it's a little bit more yellow leaning, tends to look a little bit more autumny, a little bit more natural. You're the main reason I can draw plants. I'm glad. Plants are like something that a lot of people have issues with, and I think that they're like the easiest thing ever. It's just, you just gotta like eventually, you gotta get used to it, that's all. Computer drawing tablet versus iPad. I far prefer the computer. I think that the computer can handle a lot more. iPads are fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with drawing on an iPad. I also just really like the surface of a computer. Like a screen tablet for a computer. Your computer will always have a better processor as well. You can handle larger files, that kind of thing. Hard at first, easy further in. Exactly. It's the same thing with perspective, I find. Animating's hard? Oh yeah, animating is tough. I refuse to do it. I keep on saying it. My best friend, she's an amazing animator. I cannot. I refuse completely. Alright, so I've been talking about painting. Let's talk about non-painting. Let's talk about just cel-shaded. Well, cel is another way to do it. So cel shading is with the hard shadows. If we're thinking about, like... Have I done any, like, bigger cel-shaded pieces recently? I should have. Well, I know I did, but I can't show that one. Oh, wait. Yes, I have. Hang on. Oh, well, that one's not. Stop. My phone keeps vibrating. Hang on. I did one for my partner. Hang on. So, cel shading is when your shadows have like hard edges like this, right? There's no blending here. It's all just very hard edged, right? We don't really have any extreme rendering. It's just like a very hard edged light, hard edged shadow, that sort of thing. This is cel shading, right? There's a little bit of rendering here, usually because I like to blend the two, right? Permission to draw you? Of course. Always have permission to draw me. But yeah, having these hard edge shadows, that is cel shading. Yeah, so cel shading is favored with a lot of comic artists, a lot of animators, because it's a lot faster. Mushroom, yeah, my partner, when he was doing his subathon, he wanted a background for the Glimwood Tangle. Him in the Glimwood Tangle, so. Typing again today, valid. I'm only now getting into animating, but I think I'm doing good so far. That's good. Alright. So it's something celled in, a little bit different than this. So now what we want... The wolf is so cute. Oh, that's his dog. Cubone, that's his dog. That puppy is real and is a gremlin. Alright. So, cel shading. So let me just... He's the ultimate definition of cute. Cubone is very, very cute. Yes, like named after the Pokemon. Cubone's very, very cute, but he will eat everything that you own. So let's say that I drew in a bush really quick. Let's take the mid-tone of this, which I think is kind of there-ish. I literally could just... No. Oh, it's the wrong... There we go. Cool. So let's say that we had like a bush that looks like this. Our shadows, right? We're gonna go back to the cold. We're gonna lean to blue. Does it necessarily mean that we have to lean to blue? No. I'll show you what happens if we don't do that. So... when we have this kind of shape here, I'm going to pick my shadow color. It's a little too dark. Still want to lean it to blue, though. Make sure that we always hue shift. Even if you don't go cold shadows, warm light, you always want to hue shift regardless. Just pick your light source and say mine is just coming straight from above. And make sure that your shadow, when you're cell shading, matches the texture that you want for the bush. Or whatever it is that you're drawing, right? This is cell shading. This applies to everything, right? If you are making a shadow, your shadow is a shape, not a line. Your highlights are a shape, not a line. So make sure that when you are adding in your shadows, it isn't just straight across. It isn't just in one way or the other. You want to make sure that you are going in multiple directions. You're matching it to the shape of the leaves, that sort of thing, right? And your shadow will look great. Right? Really easy way to do it. That way, again, lighting as well. Match it to the shape of the bush. You've got a very easy shaded in, cell shaded bush. You could even make it fun and color in the lines where the highlight is. And that gives it a little bit more depth. You can even make the highlights like a little bit more in depth, right? You can start lighter here. Get a little darker as you come down forwards. Right? And get even darker as you hit the shadow. Never forgetting to hue shift. Right? So the line isn't as intense. It's still lined, but it's not as intense as before. Scribbles? Oh, Squibbles? Like the D&D character? Oh, he's a boy. Tabaxi. Alright, so that's a nice celled in that. It's say if we've got like a tree with moss on it, same deal. It's the exact same deal, right? You can't really blend it in as much, but make sure that you spread it out. So if we've got like, you know... Oh, wait, I shouldn't do that first. Let's switch this. Let's say... Somebody asked earlier, what would it look like if we made the lighting cold, if we shifted to cold. So you can totally do that. If you have like your light spots and you want them to be, you want them to be more cold, you can 100% do that. Stop. You can 100% do that, right? Please don't spam anything in the chat until I say that we are moving on. So you can totally have a cold light. If you are having a cold light, this means you have a warm shadow. Can you do this? 100%. It is just a different method of working. Maybe not that intense. Maybe it's more like that. There we go. Right? This is what you're supposed to do, right? If you have a warm light source, that means your shadow will be cold. If you have a cold light source, this means your shadow will be warm. That's a very simple principle that anybody can remember. So if you have a warm light source, then this must be cold. And if you have a cold light source, then your shadow must be warm. You have a Discord server? Yeah, we got a Discord server. I'm in there sometimes. Sometimes. But yeah, that's the easiest way to do celled bushes, celled foliage. Same deal with the grass, same deal with all that fun jazz, right? Cell shaded in bushes and moss and all that. It's basically all the same. Let's say that we have, like, again, we did moss. Got the side of a tree here. Wanted to draw in, let's turn this down, it's too high. Let's say we wanted to draw in moss on the side of the tree. Sounds of your mouse make your little avatar talk. Yeah. Tracked. When you're drawing in moss as well, make sure that these little bumps are small, right? Because moss is not like, doesn't look like a giant cloud, right? They're small. It's small little patches. animal shading? You're gonna have to be more specific than animal shading. So let's say we've got a bush like this on the side of a tree. I just color my tree in really quick. All shadows and highlights can be done very, very quickly with, like, what's it called? Multiply layers and stuff like that. Multiply layers and like soft light / hard light / overlay layers. You can do that really, really quickly, really easily, really nice. So let me just really quickly do this, because we are, wow. This ended up becoming a foliage stream. Let me finish this, and then I'll move on to a different texture. If there's any method that I hate teaching in, it's step by step. So that's why I like a lot of, like, my ways of teaching are a little bit more abstract or whatnot. Like, I like just showing you my process, and you can take what you want from it. But yeah, notice how when I do moss, I kind of add this little speckled bit here. Again, we're shading for texture. We're adding lighting for texture. And with cell shading, you only have, like, max, like, maybe 2 or 3 different values to work with. So you gotta be careful with how you draw stuff on. So just adding this little speckled effect can help a lot, right? The moss already looks very different from the way the bush does, and that's just because of the way that we shaded it, right? Very, very easy way of working with it. Alright. I think that's gonna do it for plants. Let's move on to something else. Ooh, rust. Rust is tough. Yeah, I can do rust. Let's do rust, because rust won't take too long. Rust is an easy one, so now let's do rendered. And then celled, because this is only going to take one section. So rendered and celled, right? Rendered rust, not too hard. Rendered rust is very much just like, well, first of all, let's look up a reference. Rusted metal. That should always be your first step, right? Is looking up what you want, right? So always look up your references, right? So take a look at what we have here. We've got a lot of these like reddish browns kind of blending in here. Notice that a lot of it is speckled. It's not just brushed on, it's speckled, especially on these chains. Look at that, a lot of dots, a lot of that sort of thing, right? Here you can see it chipping away like the surface of the metal, right? And you can see it kind of bleeding into the color of the metal, right? So we're taking in this information. We're saying, okay, what am I looking at here? What can I understand? What am I looking at with this one, right? So with this information now, oopsies, let's start to render. Can I do glass for this? Sure. So let's say we've got our little thing here of rust. Oh, let's do this on oopsie doopsie. So let's say we were going to render this in. Let's pick my brush. I'm going to choose this one because we saw a lot of speckled stuff. So I'm going to stick with that. Does glass even have a texture? Yes, everything has texture. So what we saw was a lot of this rust texture bleeding into the metal, right? So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to say, okay, let's have this sort of bleeding into the metal. Notice how subtle that gradient is. You can only see the difference, really, because we have this other pure gray one on the side. So we're going to start with this kind of bleeding in, right? And then I'm going to start with, because what I'm kind of thinking of is now I kind of want that sort of like not necessarily all encompassing rust, but I kind of want the broken in sort of rust. So what I'm going to do now is, now that I have this sort of bleeding in, how I saw it was almost, there was this hard break where the rust started to show up, right? So I'm like, okay, now what I want is to figure out where I want this metal to be rusting away. Right? So let's say that I've got this kind of rusting away metal. I'm gonna bring it back, color pick some of the metal on the outside here. And some of it was kind of cracking here too. If you're really bad with doing natural cracks, when you first start drawing cracks, easy way to do it is if you take your pen, put it in your non-dominant, and try and draw a straight line. That makes you really nice natural cracks, really nice natural lightning. So both of those work beautifully. I've kind of been able to train my hand to do it, but if you're not really working with it, it's an easy way to do it. Wood texture? I love wood texture. Let me look up my references again real quick, because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. And then there are some areas with like slightly brighter... Actually, I'm gonna lean this to yellow. There's some areas with slightly brighter, stronger looking rust that peek through. And some deeper rust that's there. Half of learning to draw is observation. Understanding what you're looking at and not just drawing from imagination. Say, okay, I know what this thing is. I'm gonna Google it. What am I supposed to do with this now? And then I also saw a lot of deep speckly bits. Now, I'm not really one to do that off the top of my head. So let's pick a brush that I think would work. I have a fun little speckly brush here that will work just nicely for this. Especially if I'm working with concept, this will make it a lot easier. And then I'll go back in, pick out some details that I want to re-render again. So let's say that we've got like some rust spots that I want to focus on, bring out a little bit. Until I'm content enough. Said that about tree branches and roots. What did I say about tree branches and roots? Did I say something wrong? I'll do that. I know that I will. And then maybe we've got some... If I go back in here, maybe we've got some rust kind of falling here. I probably should have chosen a lighter gray, but it's okay. Right? Kind of got that funky-ish texture. Left hand to draw when first starting. Yeah. Well, I'll repeat a lot of my tips anyway, because they're true. Some people are popping in here for the first time, so it's whatever. Touch on skin textures like freckles or burns or stream? Is that elsewhere? We can touch on skin very quickly. We're just kind of doing whatever stream suggests. So after this one, it's like glass. I'm gonna be going over glass a little bit. Celled is a little bit easier. Okay, I should have chosen the lighter one here, so I'm gonna switch to a lighter. Yeah, that should work better. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do that same thing. I'm like, okay. I'm gonna hold my non-dominant for this one because might make it look a little bit nicer. Just fix afterwards. Alright, so let's say we've kind of got... Oh, that's why it's all smooth, because my smoothing is up. Alright, let's change that really quick. Much nicer. So let's say... Got a little bit of that going on. So this half will be like rusted and this one isn't. Alright, now what we're gonna do, usually any kind of texture, any like cell shaded anything, oopsie doopsie, any cell shaded anything looks better. Looks better if you have like a little bit of rendering. So even with this, I'm gonna try with no rendering, but it usually looks better if you do. Usually it looks a little bit better if you... Thank you. Yeah, no, I am having an allergy attack at the moment, so I'm dying just a little bit. But, my apologies if I sound, not epic at the moment. So let's say we render that in just a little bit. If we don't want it to be really smooth, I could just render it slightly. And then a fun little trick that I've seen people do is like add in just like little spots like this. And that gives like the idea of rusting almost. It's the same like way that people render out malachite. It's that same kind of deal. And then like just add in some other speckles within some of the darkest areas. Try to make it as random as you possibly can. But yeah, there, rust. Alright, what about the green rust on copper? That is not rust, that is oxidization. That is a thing that that metal is supposed to do. No allergies, stop attacking Jessie. I've been having allergy attacks since I was like a baby, so it's whatever. Am I posting this as a video after? Always. Stream VODs will always be available as videos. So that's rust. Let's move on to glass now. So, glass is funky. I struggle with teaching glass because I swear I have a different method for glass every single time. Alright. So again, what we do first is we look up our reference. Let's look up glass. Right? If we look up glass itself, right, we notice that when we have glass, it has an edge. Sometimes it has color, right? Sometimes our glass has colors to its edge. Alright? Sometimes it doesn't, but more often than not, it does. Right? We've got a little bit of glass to our, or a little bit of color to our edge. Very, very reflective, very, very smooth looking glass, right? Especially if we have it with like an actual, like a drinking glass, it'll distort what's behind it, right? And we'll see a little bit of those colors kind of moving around going on back there, right? We'll see it kind of distort an image because it's a bent piece of glass. If we've got straight glass though, we can see directly through it, but it will always have a little bit of a reflection going on. Alright, so let's take a pane of glass. Let's just take one of these, like, funky little panes of glass that are, like, see-through with a slight tint of green to them. I'll do this in a couple ways. I'll say that, like, we'll have one that's, like, fine and then one that's, like, broken. Because I know that every artist wants to know broken glass. What do you mean? Oh. Thought I unlocked it. Alright. Let's... I always start with, like, a mid-tone. You should technically start with a mid-tone gray all the time. So let's say we took this. I should also... The thing with glass is that it'll look very, very similar rendered to like, celled, because it is a very, you know, hard-edged kind of thing. So let's say we've just got a piece of glass going on here. So we've got like a pane of glass. Sharp contrast indeed. Pane of glass. P-A-N-E. Pane of glass. So say we start got something like this, right? Notice that I used white to highlight the edges. This is because that when you have glass, more likely than not, that edge will be white because of the highlight that's going on, right? Especially if I've got a mid-tone for the background. So let's say that I've got that white little pane of glass. Or I've got this little pane of glass. We're getting very Minecraft pane of glass for a second here. But let's say that it is that sort of like deep turquoise. So I'm gonna take that color, bring that over to the edges here. Glass is the one that I struggle with the most. Like if I'm teaching a texture, glass is one that I struggle with because I'm like, I have no real, like, oh, this is how I do this is how I do that I have with a lot of other things, because the way that I do it changes based on the day. Like, I'm like, some days I'm like, oh, I'm gonna render out something, I'm gonna render it out like this. Other days I'm like, oh, I'm gonna render it out like that. So I don't really have a rhyme or reason to glass at the moment. Like, with most of these, I try to be like, okay, this is, like, how I do it, and here's, like, a little bit of theory behind that. I have no theory behind glass. I'm just, like, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like rendering it like this today, or let me try this method, because I still haven't found the method that works the best for me. I kind of just, it's the same thing with metal. I'm just kind of like, I'll figure it out as I go. Rendered and celled. Rendered is, like, more painted. Celled is, like, hard-edged. I really shouldn't be saying rendered. I should be saying painted. Let me actually change that. It should be painted. It shouldn't be celled. It shouldn't be rendered. Because these are both rendering. It's just two different types of rendering. Because this is, like, painted. Yeah, these should be painted. They shouldn't be rendered. Because rendering is just how you finish a piece. Not necessarily a style of finishing a piece. Celled is simplified, usually with strong black outlines. Not necessarily. A lot of my celled work is not with black outlines, actually. Cell shading is just compressing the shadow into one form, one or two forms. See through and adding some white streaks. White streaks down the center is actually kind of unrealistic. That's the thing. Is like if you just add the white streaks, it isn't necessarily correct. There's a lot of ways to do painting. Yeah. Cell shading is just... Okay, so if you want to know where cell shading came from, the term celled is an animation term, because animators are... Well, not necessarily, it's pop artists, but pop artists got it from animators. Animators are the ones who started with cell shading because they needed a simpler shading style to work with animations. So if you've ever seen people be like, oh, I have the original cell for this show, I have the original cell for X show, Y show, right? They mean that they have a single piece of, like, transparent, they have a piece of transparent plastic that has an illustration painted on top of it. That is a cell, because what they did is they used, like, acrylic paint or gouache, and they would paint on top of a piece of, like, a cell, and that was a single frame of an animation. That is how traditional animation was done. So that's why we call it cell shading, because it is the simplified, hard-edged way that traditional animators worked with shading. The lowercase I amongst uppercase letters pains me. I think that you're boring. I'm joking. I'm just kidding. Are there an equivalent to the brush you use for sketching, line art, your drawing program for Procreate? No, I'm not sure. The beautiful thing is that Procreate will take any Photoshop brushes. These are Kyle brushes, except for my texture painting. My texture painting brush, the one that I'm using right now, is not a Kyle brush. I got that from somebody else, so I cannot redistribute. But the Kyle brushes, Kyle T. Webster brushes, some of them are Photoshop exclusive, but he has some on his Gumroad that you could probably find. The one that I use for sketching, that's my pencil brush. So as long as you have some kind of pencil brush, should be fine. Yeah, and then the glass pane, what'll happen is now what I'm doing is I'm gonna find one of these sides. Like, okay, this is one side of my glass pane that I'm looking at right now. I'm gonna pick this. Just get rid of this edge real quick. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Just this side, yeah. So what I'm gonna do now is with this single side, because it is flat. Actually, I'm gonna... No, that's right. Let's say that I have this side picked. What I'm just gonna do, pick this side. Say that my light source is coming from above. So now it kind of looks like that. Actually, let's say there's a little bit of... It's like a... Let's say that it's like a... What do you call it? The tube lights, the fluorescent lighting. Let's say it's fluorescent lighting. So we've got a pair of, like, tube lights coming from up there. That's when you would use these, like, strips, is depending on how, or what kind of reflectivity is coming off of it. Something like that. Something like that. So let's say that we've got a pane of glass that kind of looks like that, right? Cool, works. Let's actually put something down here too. Just for fun. Do I know where these light sources are coming from? No. Alright, so now that we have this piece of glass, we're not done here, because some of y'all wanted it to be broken. And the fun thing with that, we don't have to change much. Let's pick out the areas that we want to be broken. Let's say we've got like some streaks that we want down the middle. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make 2 layers. One layer, we're gonna draw in the same color as our lightest highlight. Let's say that this glass is like just completely broken in the center like this. Right, I'm like... Let's say that it looks kind of like this. Cracks are more likely to happen in triangles, so try not to have any rectangular shapes when you're cracking glass. So let's say we have this like that. Lovely cracks, thank you. I literally used the method that I talked about 3 seconds ago. Or 3 minutes ago. Just use my other hand. This looks pretty good. Not too bad. We could leave it at this. But there's a fun thing that we can do that makes it look just a little bit nicer. So let's say we took this. Let's copy this layer. Put it underneath. Move it over just a little bit. Lock it so we can't change it. And let's pick the color of our deepest shadow. Or one of our deepest shadows. And let's just adjust it a little bit. Pick out the areas that we want. Maybe add some darkness to this side because there's no shadow here. Or there's no light source here. Now this is a section I do have rhyme or reason for. Got a little bit going on here. I guess we could add a little bit of highlight here too if we wanted. And there we go. Cracked glass. Actually, let's... That looks a little bit awkward. It's kind of like that. And you can even, like, indent it a little bit. As if pieces of it came off. This is the exact same method that you use for tile. Cracked tile and tiles in general. If you are drawing tiles, what you can do, you can very easily add that texture in. You can very easily draw in a tile with this method. What's the wrench behind Joe's name mean? It means that she's a moderator. She can tell anyone to leave at any chance, at any point in time. Everybody say thank you, Joe. Alright. This is a nice, easy way to make cracked glass. Now, celled glass, a lot easier. So celled glass, a lot easier. So, let me think, how would I do this? So, I'm gonna start with my lines. I'm gonna start immediately with having colored lines. I'm not gonna bother to, to try and clean this up more. I'm just saying that right now. So, let's say that we start with this. Filling the areas that need to be filled. While I'm doing this, I've been watching so many things with my partner lately. We finished the first season of, what's it called? Dead End Theme Park, I think it's called. Really good. We watched Wendell and Wild. We've been watching, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. It's a really good one. So it was a good time. Cabinet of Curiosities freaks him out so much. My favorite episode is his least favorite one. Wendell and Wild's amazing. Highly recommend. Reminded me of all the things I need to watch. I recommend all of them. They're really, really good. The Outside. The Outside was my dad's favorite. I haven't finished it yet. My personal favorite so far, though, is the one that comes right after one, the one with the artist. I'm a really big fan of that one. But yeah, let's say we got this right now. We got this nice little area. All we've got to do is just do that. And then just our little, whoops. Our little glass like that. That's easy enough. There's nothing crazy that goes along with that. Alright. Cell shaded glass isn't too bad. Like, obviously, the shading itself, like the highlights themselves, will change depending on where your light source is coming from, what light sources you have. I'm just going like, oh, there's like tube lights. And we're looking down on it. That's what my thought process is. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna draw in these. And then I'm gonna, oops, use an eraser that's soft. And just erase the ends a little bit so they're not super harsh. There we go. That looks better. Alright, nice and easy. Don't need to render anything. Makes it look a little bit nicer. So let's say we took that. We wanted to crack this. Not streaming for a bit, so I'm big chill here. Speak of the devil. Hi, Crow. I was talking about how we watched Wendell and Wild. And GDT's Cabinet of Curiosities and Dead End. It's a great time. Slept through one of your streams. I definitely need. Lol, hi Oz. How's it going, bro? My favorite colors? Cerulean. Oh, I should have gotten Crow to answer, see if he remembered. So good. They're so good! Yeah, Crow and I have been watching a bunch of different shows. Yeah, no, he knows. I was about to ask a genuine question, but I forgot it halfway. That's how it be. Alright, and let's say we got some cracks going on here. My smoothing is up to 10 again. Didn't mean for that to be a thing, but it's okay. The fun thing about cel-shaded shadows is that they actually look better if you don't really add that much depth to them. personally, I just kind of like leaving them like this. If that's the vibe that I'm going for. But it's really up to you. Oh, there are guests downstairs. I can hear them. Crow, wasn't there another show that you wanted to watch? I'm trying to remember. I feel like we saw something and we were like, let's watch it. Does being a channel member cost money? Yes. My rendering revolution was adding more to my cell shaded art and recently realizing that it looks worse. Just depends on what you want. That's all. One Marvel superhero show. Oh, yeah. The, shoot. I don't remember. I'll know it if I see it. Daredevil? No. It was something about, like, they were, like, cursed to be part animal or something like that. Hoodies or jackets? Hoodies. The Imperfects! Thank you! That's the one. Sweet Tooth. No, I've seen Sweet Tooth. I love Sweet Tooth. Craven the Hunter? I don't even know what that is. You can add a little bit there if you want, but I think it looks fine without it too. Alright, glass. Glass isn't too hard, I don't think. I mean, it's annoying and, like, it takes a bit to learn, but, like, I find that it's not too bad. Sweet Home is not a Marvel show. Need the second season to come out for real. The soundtrack for that show is so good. I remember there's one song, Maple Sap, that's really, really good. But Netflix looked for it and they changed the thumbnail. How dare they? Netflix does that all the time, depending on what gets the most popular. Alright, somebody, what else did we request after Glass? What was something that we requested? Or maybe, like... Whoa. There we go. Alright. Someone said skin? Skin? Alright. Skin it is. Whoops. Glass question. Seems like you're doing surface cracks. You just thicken the shadowing to look as thick as the edges in the glass to make it look cracked through? Yes. Yes, you would. I personally was a little too lazy to do that, so I was like, you know what? Surface cracks are just fine. The skin ball. Yep, we're gonna do the flesh orb. So skin. I'm gonna do very, very baseline level skin. I'm not gonna worry about... Here's the thing, right? People are like, oh, I need a separate tutorial for how to draw dark skin. No, you don't. No, you don't. The principles remain the same. It sounds like a skill issue to me if you can't draw dark skin. I'm sorry. So let's have it painted here. Skin cube? No. Skin orb. So let's say we got skin. So you got painted. I stole that joke from somebody else. So you got painted, and you got celled. Celled is a lot easier than... Cell's a lot easier than painting. We'll talk about painting for a second, though. Just to satiate you people who do have skill issues, though, I will be doing a flesh orb that is one in a lighter skin tone and one in a darker skin tone. So when drawing darker skin, you're supposed to use lighting to define. When using lighter skin, you should use shadow. Yes, that is just because of, See, people are like, that's a skin thing. No, that's a color thing. If you have a darker color, obviously your shadows are not going to be as intense. So the thing that's going to be more intense is your highlight. So people are like, that's a principle of shading skin. No, that's just a thing of everything. That's why if you say you can't shade in Darker skin. That's a skill issue. Just imagining a skin ball. What do you mean? Make a fist and you got one. So you got somebody who's a lot darker. Let's say you got that. Here, a sharp. Alright. But then it doesn't close up. Maybe you just haven't tried hard enough. As registered dark skin haver, my only tip is stop doing the pink blush. It looks weird. It so does. Don't do the light blush. Match the skin tone. Alright. So let's say we've got some skin, right? If we've got this one here, I'm just gonna do this so nothing gets out of hand. If we've got our shadow going on, I'm gonna do all of this without a, what's it called? I'm gonna do this without a multiply layer just so I can make it a little bit quicker. So this just means that I'm gonna be using the shading techniques that I know off the top of my head. Let's say maybe we've got a shadow going on real quick. I'm gonna hue shift down to make it colder. The colder color is towards red. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of the shadow right here. I'm starting with a shadow. Just a very simple shadow like this. What I'm gonna add though is something called subsurface scattering, which is a little red edge to all your shadows. This is not going to be as intense in every single aspect of the body. The places where it will be the most intense are your nose, your ears, your fingertips, and your chin. Haha, out of hand. True. Jacket with a built-in neck pillow and I wear it every day? So you look like Floatzel? That's vibes. What saturated is pink blush looks weird on light skin too. Oh yeah, no, 100%. Subsurface is important. So let's say we've got our little subsurface bit here. Notice that I am using a textured brush. Skin looks a lot better if it is not perfectly smooth. It's the scariest movie I've ever seen, Hereditary. Isn't the red blush like the peach fuzz that represents hair? Eh? I don't know what you mean by that, I'm sorry. What if my skin is perfectly smooth like plastic that I would think that you're a Men in Black or an SCP worker? Perhaps you too are part of the Secret Service. So let's say we've got our flesh orb. Scariest game, PT Silent Hill. No full game has scared me as much as that playable teaser has. And I wasn't even the one playing. Nothing has made me as terrified as that game did. Am I sick? Yeah, I got an allergy attack. I'm correct, I'm an SCP. They got confused and hired. Have I seen Nope? Not yet. I really need to. I'll get Crow to watch it with me. Get my partner to watch it with me. It's a Jordan Peele. We just watched Gwendolyn Wild. Alright. Another fun thing you could do is if you have flesh, it's nice to add a little bit of bounce light. You can use any color you want. My go-to just so happens to be blue, because blue is a very common bounce light color. But, like, you can use anything you want, especially if you have, like, neon lights around you. Allergies are real life skill issues? 100%. I'm dying a little bit, actually. Yeah, thank you. Don't stream when you're sick, Jessie. What if I get sick during stream? Okay, so if we've kind of have the flesh orb, right? What we got left is we got a little bit of highlights. Highlights look great as speckles. If you want your nice little highlights going in there, it's nice to get a speckled looking brush to get a bit of that texture in there. It's subtle, but you can see it, right? There's a little bit of speckled texture going on. And then you can just kind of pick a spot for a very nice bright highlight. You can also do some speckling, right? Speckling just looks a lot nicer by comparison to just blending it in there. You can even add a little bit of that speckling back into the shadows to make it not as smooth, make it a bit more porous, as they say. You can even like do that, like use like a soft brush. If you want to go a little bit more Omega realistic, you can like use a soft brush and go back in here. If you're new to rendering, don't start, or if you're new to painting, don't start with a soft brush. You're setting yourself up for failure. Start with a hard edge and then learn how to render with a soft edge afterwards. Start with something a little bit less porous and then go into your pores and do whatever you want. Flesh orb, right? So you got something that kind of looks like this. Now if we're working with dark skin, very, very similar. Can I tell what kind of settings you have in your blending brush? I'm trying different settings, never seem to really get the blending going. I don't know why. They're all the defaults except for pressure by opacity. I changed none of my settings. Alright. Again, very, very similar. I'm gonna choose a shadow color, make it cold. Because this skin is darker, the shadow will not be quite as intense, right, by comparison to the lighter skin. This, again, is just a theme with all darker objects. If you have a darker object, it will, like, adapt to the shadow a little less. You will, however, still have your subsurface scattering. Just bring it closer to the red. And you've got your little subsurface scattered band. Blend these bad boys in. Usually for the sake of speed, I'm going to use a soft brush. Again, if you are not used to painting, do not start with a soft brush. Your soft brush should never be the first thing you work with. And then let's pick a blue for our nice little bounce light back here. Makes everything look a little bit nicer. Let's add a little bit of texture to that. So it's not so perfect. I swear I had like a better skin. Oh, you know what? It's in a brush pack that I don't have to upload it. That's okay. So I'm gonna lean the lightness towards yellow as I bring the highlight to this skin. Right? Notice that it looks like a highlight. I am not changing the skin tone. Into the yellow. Fleshy. Alright? Notice how much more noticeable this is on the dark skin compared to the light skin, right? Because that's color theory. Things that are darker are more susceptible to highlights. Things that are lighter are more susceptible to our shadows. That is just a fact. Flesh. Flesh. Swear I had better skin. Your skin should have pores in it. If you don't have pores in your skin, something's wrong. I remember the question from earlier. Wait, no, I don't. F. Because that's color theories, most of my art explanations, same. What about acne? Acne, you can use the same, like textured brush and just add, like, splotches if you want. The flesh looks like a texture from Cinema 4D. I'm glad that you think that. Because it's just me using my silly little textured brushes. It's getting so dark. Is it gonna rain tonight? Yesterday it was so foggy here. Alright. Oh, I forgot to check my Tamagotchi. Don't mind me checking my Tamagotchi. Really quick. You ever seen fog on top of a mountain? Oh yeah. Very similar to fog on top of, buildings, I find. Tamagotchi? Yeah. Oz, you'll be happy to know that this Tamagotchi, this one has like perfect everything. I am raising this one, like, so diligently. Don't let it die again. Okay, listen. Wait, what's my Tamagotchi's name? Pretzel. My partner's streaming, but we joint the names. So I named, like, the first name is Pretzel. The second name to his request is Crunk Popster. So is it still alive? Yeah, well, my current one, this is number 3. I don't know what happened with the other 2. They just died on me. They were, like, also perfect, and I don't know why they just decided, oh, we're actually gonna die. They're all good here. Crunk Popster. Yeah, with a C, Crunk Popster. This is the man that I'm dating. He was like, Jess, can you please have the second name be Crunk Popster? Did I make my overlays? Nope. This was all off the top of my head. This one now is going to have overlays. Yeah, that's it, Joe. Crunk Popster. Alright. So with the celled one, we're going to use the multiply layers now. Gonna choose kind of like a... I'm actually gonna switch more to here. Yeah, so I'm gonna choose my shadow color, which I'm gonna keep like this. With the edge of it, right? Let's say that I wanted my subsurface scattering. What I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna just make the entire edge one straight line like this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick the edges and make them more interesting than that, right? I'm not just gonna, or what I could do is I can also have it so it's like thin at the edges here. Oopsie doopsie. Let's say that I wanted it thin at the edges here and then got more like that as it gets close to the center. I can also do that too. I kind of like the edges thicker more though. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have it so the edges are a little bit thicker, gets thinner as it's in the center, and then thicker as it goes out to the edge. All right. Give your line some variation. Don't make them all exactly the same. Exactly the same thickness. It's gonna make it awkward looking. Thank you. I apologize that I keep on sneezing and sniffling. I am dying. Alright. I'm actually gonna blend it in just a little bit as well. Because I think that cell shading always looks a little bit better if it's just slightly blended. You can, of course, you can always have it so it's, like, not like that. Right, you can just have it so it's just a sharp edge. Totally cool, too. I personally just really like that's sort of slightly blended. And then just a little bit of an edge here. Like this. For our bounce light. Again, what I like to do is I like to blend it in just a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to make it kind of look like that. And then our highlight, which in this case, oh, it's still a multi-layer, that's why. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a slightly lighter color, give it something like that, and then just a sharp little point like that. Groovy. There we go. Nice. I might actually lighten this. Let's lighten this a little bit. Hello. There we go. There we go. That looks a little bit nicer. Celled. A little bit easier. Very complicated cell shading. I like my cell shading, but it's a little bit more complicated. I think that just hard edges makes everything look a little bit whack. So I'm like, I like it when it's just a little bit heftier. So let's do the same thing with the dark orb. The dark orb. Again, our shadow. Not going to be as crazy, right? Not as intense as it is on the light skin, because that's just how it is. These values are closer together in range, so they're not as intense. It's the Enderman soundtrack. You don't like Vaporwave? I think you're crazy. Vaporwave's where it's at, man. Making hot cocoa soon. What should I put on it? Marshmallows and or whipped cream. And let's add in our subsurface. Again, it's not as crazy. Let's say that I just wanted to keep the sharp edge for this one. Let's say that I didn't want to blend this one in at all, just so that we have both options for that. So let's keep this one just sharp-edged for everything. So let's say we have a little bit of subsurface there. We've got our highlight, which actually I'm going to put on this layer. So we can have a bit of idea what this will look like this. Skin with cell shading does not have as much texture as skin with painting, right? Because cell shading is meant to simplify. We don't really want to make it crazy. Cell shading is all about shapes. Shapes, not blending. Right? So you can sell that just like this. There we go. Sold! Let me write a couple notes here. Just cause. No, please don't change the layer style. Dang it. Alright. Hang on. Let's do this. Haha! That's the money maker. Alright. Using Photoshop right also where can I buy your brushes? A lot of my brushes are not mine. They are from other artists. A lot of the brushes that I use are Kyle brushes, Kyle T. Webster brushes that come with Photoshop. Some of them are from other artists. So I cannot redistribute my brushes. But yeah, you can look for so many different brushes by artists on like Gumroad or on Twitter. That kind of thing. Artists are usually happy to redistribute their brushes. I unfortunately do not have any of my brushes up because, you know, flesh orbs. Because they are not mine. So, not there. Alright. Kyle Webster's got that stuff down. He cornered the market for all brushes. It's true. Kyle T. Webster brushes are to die for. I love them. Stop dying or no more flesh orbs? That's okay. I'm certain that there are flesh orbs in the afterlife. Alright. Did anyone say anything after skin? I swear there was something else that somebody said after skin. One of these days I'll manage to get the Kyle brush pack in CSP properly. I have it in CSP, I just haven't messed around yet. Bricks, tree bark, scales, water, wood. I've only got like 18 minutes left, so I'm gonna try to do something easier, which means I'm not gonna do water, unfortunately. Water is not something that I'm really good at rendering. I can show you my trick for celled water, though. That's an easy one. I find that, like, water is something that will take a really long time. We have a fur stream. We've already done it. Wooden bricks is another one, yeah. Bricks are not hard. Haven't we done a clothing stream? Joe, did we do a fabric stream? I swear we did. Unless I'm dumb. Here's the thing. A lot of you are asking for, like, brick, dirt, that kind of thing. Brick and dirt, first of all, are the exact same. You just get, like, a nice, like, speckled texture brush. It's the exact same one that I use for the highlights of the skin, actually. And just use that over, like, a flat plane and then draw in the bricks themselves. Not that tough. Not that tough. Oh, there was a fabric fold stream. Okay, not one for texture. Fabric's actually not that bad. Fabric, I think, is like something that if it's very different if you're rendering it. It's not different at all if you're selling it. Okay. Let me do a really quick one for water. I'm gonna do a really quick one for celled water. I'm not great at rendering it. If we want, like, a totally different, like, separate water stream, I could probably do that at some point. But I don't have much time left, so. So water is actually very, very easy to do celled. Alright? So let's say that we have the base color for water, which I usually like to choose a green or blue. Actually, let's go with this. You gotta draw. There's a bunch of beans. Great clipping mask. So let's say that I drew in a bunch of bean shapes. I'm doing the surface of water, right? The funny version of this that I've seen is somebody drew in a bunch of Among Us, and that technically also works. So let's draw in a bunch of beans. Make sure that they are different shapes, different sizes, going in different directions. You don't want them all to be exactly the same. Or else this will not work. Alright, that's about as much as I'm willing to do. So, let's say that we've got a bunch of beans. Like this. Whoops. Can I ask why your guys' streams are always timed so specifically? Usually we want 2 hours for the longer ones, and then like 3 for, or 1.5 for the shorter ones. I guess the easiest answer is budgeting. Once you have all these in, fill in the little loose cracks like this. Anywhere that you didn't draw a bean, just fill it in. So you've got, like, filled in white portions. I just can't forget at 3 a.m. Oh, I see. I'm seeing what I'm... I was like, what are y'all talking about? And then I realized. If you think an area is just a little bit too large, you can add a bean or a bubble back in there as well. I think an area needs some attention. It doesn't have to be exact the way that you color this in, because we're going to do something with it afterwards anyway, so it doesn't really matter if this white coloring stage is clean or not. Alright, once you got that filled in, you got to erase as needed. So if you want to bring down some areas, make some areas, whoops, I missed a spot. If you want to make some areas a little bit less thick, a little bit more thin, just erase as needed. So they might be just a little bit less recognizable as beans and start to just look like surface reflections. These beans. Yeah, so we're gonna get rid of the beans as we slowly erase more and more. Especially as we started. The goal of the erasing is to start to make them look less like beans and more like surface reflections. So erase as needed, add more in as needed, so on and so forth. This isn't the last step, though. This is one of the last steps, but it isn't. Even if you erase, you can even add in more lines if you want. If you want to break up some of these sections, want to make them different looking, you can totally do that too. It's just up to you. Alright, so now you got something that kind of looks like this. Maybe you want to fix some stuff. Break some areas up, whatnot. Alright, so now you kind of got that going on. Looks pretty alright. We're not done. So let's take this layer, copy it, make it into a darker version of our current watercolor, bring it underneath the highlights, and move it over as much as you see fit. Maybe make it a little bit less intense than that. More like that, maybe. And you've got water, baby. You can change it by adding a gradient to the surface of the water, the blue. Yeah, it's just foamy water. It's like surface water reflections, that kind of deal. Right? You can make it so it's like... Oh, I shouldn't have done that yet. So what you can do... So you can add a little bit of a gradient if you want. Oopsie. We do that fun jazz. Turn this into a multiply layer. Oh, did I? Oh no, that's right. Oh, okay, wait. You can do that. You can turn this into a multiply layer. Make it lighter, maybe. All digital art is 99% final touches. See if you do that. Yep, there we go. Now it's really like reflective water. Easy. I blinked and went from beans to water. That's how it be. You can even change the reflections to be less, like, white if you wanted them to be just slightly light blue. You could also do that. Give it a nice little slight blue effect. Make it look fun. This should also be on a different layer anyway. Uh-huh. 2 minutes ago it was beans. Yeah. That's the magic of digital art. Alright, yeah, we got 5 minutes. It did technically start 2 hours ago. We started at 4. It's almost 6 now. Alright. Quick feather texture. The thing is that the only way that I can do a quick feather texture tutorial is if I, again, only do it celled. And celled feathers are like, there's no real... Like, because feathers are like... Here, I guess we could do feathers. Let's do really, really quick feathers. Because it's not like it's anything crazy. I can't do a rendered feather technique right now. But let's say if I wanted, like, celled feathers. Do I like doing the live streams? Yeah, of course. I'm just very tired today. I'm sorry. This is a texture stream, Michelle. I don't really know how I would do an insect texture. There are so many insects. But if I was doing like a bird hair texture, we have that already. That's a live stream. Feathers are very much like fur. If we have ruffled feathers, then we can just do something like this, where all the feathers are near the edges. Like that. If they're not ruffled, feathers are very smooth and lie flat on the back very, very easily. There's really nothing crazy with feathers when it comes to texture. And let's say that we've got like let's say we got like just a beige bird going on here. What bird is this? Not sure. We'll say it's like a Dr. Seuss bird or something. Do I have a cold? No, I got allergies. Good night, Em. So, let's say we got this, right? It's again the same deal as like, what's it called? The foliage. You just follow the shape of the feathers when it's celled within the shadow, and that's all. A lot of celled shading is just draw on the shape of the shadow and make sure that it matches the shape of whatever it is being placed on. Alright? It's not really, there aren't too many differences when it comes to that. It's when you're rendering, when you're painting, that it starts to get a bit more difficult, a bit more different. Feathers, though, is funny because really the feathers lay very flat on the bird's body. There isn't really a huge, like, oh, what's the texture of this? It's just flat a lot of the times. And same deal with the highlights. Just follow the shape of the feathers. Oh my god. Oh, my headphones? Yeah. If you find a live stream where I'm on camera, I was on camera for the skull stream, I think. You'll see my headphones. They're real. Thank you. An individual feather? An individual has even less texture, because it's not like we're really going crazy into that either. It's more like, here. If we had like an individual feather, I see a lot of people when they draw just individual feather. Oopsie doopsie. When you have an individual feather, it looks a lot better if you just draw it as a single shape, rather than if you tried to, like, if you drew a feather and you were like, oh, I'm gonna draw it like this. Don't do that. It's a lot easier if you just have a very minimal amount of implied texture. So if we've got like a couple little strands loose like that, it looks a lot better. Just keep in mind that feathers are translucent. So like if you're gonna be coloring it in from behind and like you have a light source from behind, you're gonna wanna... Oh, that's my time. If you're gonna be coloring it from behind, you're gonna wanna have some of it, the light peeking through. Because feathers are indeed. What's it called? Are translucent, similar to skin. Yeah, you can, again, you just take your shadows, follow the shape of the feather itself. Same with the highlight. Follow the shape of the follicles, and that's all. Alright. Thank you for streaming even though your allergies are bothering you. Yeah, no problem. I'm dying a little bit. That's okay. Speaking of, though, that is 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. If you don't know too much about us, this is your first time here, you've never really taken part in anything with the studio before. Let me just move this stuff around because it's gonna bother me if I don't. Oh boy, it's gonna bother me if I don't. Don't know too much about the studio. We're not just a YouTube channel, we're an art studio, so if you'd like to check out the classes, exclamation point classes, we have a bunch of classes that we are offering. Currently, the fall term is happening. My current classes are full, but there are some others that still have some enrollment spots. If you'd like to check out the classes that we offer, feel free to check those out. Where is that? There it is. wingcanvas.com. Check out the classes that we offer over on our website. This file that you see in front of you will be available as a JPEG on our Discord, exclamation point Discord. It'll also be uploaded to Instagram. If you'd like to check out and download that JPEG, so you can kind of just have this on hand at all times, that is up there for you. But if you'd like the working files, this one unfortunately just has everything, like, merged, because, like, I didn't bother to keep anything unmerged. But if we have a more interesting working files that you would like the layers to, you can check out our Patreon or our YouTube membership, minimum of $2 a month, but it's $5 to get my working files. You can get a bunch of perks like working files, class recordings, early access YouTube videos, that sort of thing. You'll be able to check them out over there. But alright, next week, well, this Sunday, who is streaming this Sunday? Is it Vanessa or Iggy? Ooh, I can't tell. I think it's Iggy. Yeah, it's Iggy. Iggy will be streaming this Sunday. He will be teaching us about fantasy weapons, which is also the theme of our current Discord submissions for November. So we'll be drawing fantasy weapons with Iggy. And then next week, Friday, we are going to be drawing one background in different moods. So I'm going to be going over some mood lighting next week, Friday. So if you'd like to join for that, that'll be up there. Of course, there'll be notifications in the Discord as well for you. But alright, y'all. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see y'all next week. Au revoir. Bye-bye.